if you get cancer and you cure it in the next 1 or 2 years, you can potentially become a billionaire from it.
Can AI also solve problems with your anus?
What problems do you have with your anus?
You really fell for it.
Does it sound like I have something stuck up my ass or something?
Coding an app is the new starting a podcast. We are 3 dudes. We just started a podcast.
It's incredibly reckless in this world to not learn AI.
Everything is code. I recently realized everything is code. Luca, what are you predicting?
Underwater drones run by Pico Claw.
Okay. Wow, bombshell. Using AI to write your prompt, bro. Come on. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 6 of the God Mode pod. We are a bit in holiday mode. Luca went on a ski trip. I've been skiing a lot this week, and Ben is somewhere in the middle of nowhere in Africa. I don't even know what hut he is in, but he found internet connection. We're going to have a quick one this week. We are a day late recording because holidays. But hey, we are showing up. We are not breaking our consistency. And we are here every week talking about the latest AI news. And this week there was some news. There was Google, there was OpenAI, there was another guy who cured cancer, and we're going to dive a bit deeper into each of these topics. So let's get started. Topic number 1 was actually Elon Musk reposting that AI content will vastly exceed all human content. And this is something we've been talking about in previous episodes as well, where I personally am preparing to get personal content out before AI really takes over everything on social media. And I was so surprised seeing these charts with the content outputs in the world, basically, where AI, who only exists for a few years now, exceeded the human written content in just a few years of existence, and it's literally going parabolic. Ben, what do you think of this? How fast is AI and content going to expand here?
Yeah, I mean, look, AI content is going to keep growing, obviously, but the question is obviously how much consumption of content is happening, right? And I feel like there's almost a dispersion between people reading less long form written content, but yet there is more of it. So the question is like, where is this content going? What's the purpose of it? I think this is kind of the start of like AI content feeding AIs that are consuming the content, right? But it's not necessarily like people that are consuming more content because there's more AI published content out there. Yeah, we've talked about this before. Like we really haven't seen like an AI video kind of ChatGPT moment yet. So when that comes, maybe the story will be different. But for now, to me, this is just like a ton of AI slop, and it's just people that are creating AIs that are creating content for other AIs to consume it for the most part, right? Or nobody is consuming it, pretty much.
Yeah.
If I had to say something, at first I was looking at the graph and trying to understand it, and then I figured, oh my god, like that's so parabolic. I've never seen a graph that's like so kind of where this blue line is so vertical compared to humans, right? It's insane.
Yeah,
But this does make me think about a separate issue where Google Scholar is also being overrun with AI slop, and there are certain companies that are basically kind of bribing medical journals to put research out there that is just AI generated. And this used to be more easy to spot just up until a few years ago, and now it's becoming very, very difficult to spot. So I think for me, the biggest risk that I'm seeing is that we're losing, at least when it comes to AI content that has to do with like research and science, we're losing that ability to kind of differentiate the two. And it's definitely going to be very important for us to be able to identify the kind of the false research that AI is creating, and it's become so good at creating fake research that, you know, if you're just reading this journal, you might just assume that this experiment actually took place. So I think that's kind of what I would be worried about. To me, what does it say? It says that that possibly social media or science journals in the coming years are going to need to figure out how to have genuine content on the internet. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. One thing I take away here is that we should implement a science corner for Luca. but anyway, for everyone who is listening here, there's 2 charts that we're looking at. One is the annual written output of human written words between the 1500s and 2030. And then there's also the cumulative written words output from the 1500s to 2030. And it's like a line that slowly goes up with the human written words. And then the AI line is literally 2020, basically a straight line up. I highly recommend just checking out the YouTube to see these charts because it's impressive. Great point on AI, training AI and having false information, and that science gets influenced there by maybe wrong AI opinion. Maybe we should get Dan on the pod. I remember last summer he was actually building something for scientific fact checking using AI and building his own Wikipedia for that. Ben, we discussed before about your buckets of attention and how much attention people have and where attention goes. But if AI content really takes over, like who is actually going to consume it? And that's a good point. Maybe it's just AIs consuming AI. And I don't know who is benefiting from that, to be honest. Next up, Ben.
So in December of 2025, Disney signed a $1 billion deal with OpenAI. 3 years, over 200 licensed characters. I think there was Marvel, Pixar, I think Star Wars. All of them are available inside of Sora for users to create the videos. So this was basically Disney betting on the future of AI videos. Then, earlier last week, 90 days after they had kind of signed this agreement, OpenAI posted, they said, we're saying goodbye to Sora. So the official reason was basically that compute is being redirected to robotics. Disney ended up basically saying, okay, the deal's off. This $1 billion agreement that they had to inject kind of liquidity into OpenAI was canceled. Yeah, so anyway, like at the time, OpenAI really had created a ton of buzz around Sora, right? Like everyone was posting their own videos. People were wondering, is this really the next, social media? Like Jake Paul was everywhere on my timeline. And it's kind of interesting. Like I still go on Facebook, and in Facebook in particular, to me is completely killed, or like, I hate going on Facebook now because almost every video is just like fake AI generated, animal related videos or things that happened that didn't really happen, right? So I don't know if OpenAI is like saying, okay, yes, we're going to allocate our compute elsewhere, or are they just like rethinking like what are the kind of top pillars for AI content, and like maybe they think that this AI slop is really not actually good for their brand. I have a prediction also here that OpenAI is bring in some PR people to say, hey, we have like a PR crisis right now, right? I don't think Sora was ever something that people were like, wow, this is amazing. We love OpenAI for having this product. And so in the next few months, I would wager to say that OpenAI is going to do things to try to, let's just say, quell all of the haters that they've had the last year or so.
So what I believe is that there isn't enough compute in the world to power all of the use cases that AI already is able to achieve. So what we're seeing is companies like OpenAI need to prioritize where to put the compute in order to get a return on their investment. And I've seen this conversation happen with regards to autonomous driving. Because if autonomous driving is going to come into the next few years, that compute might not be the best use when looking at solutions. So I think that the compute for Sora was just so large that it was putting OpenAI behind in other aspects of their product, especially when compared to coding and benchmarking against Claude. So now they're kind of in this mode where they're looking at which use cases people are ready to pay the most for. And I think those use cases are the B2B use cases, such as coding and this sort of thing. Whilst Sora and things like creating images, I feel like people are expecting that they can get these services for free because so many platforms offer image generation or video generation nearly for free, and it's not worth it financially for them. However, it's also quite shocking to see that it's just a compute problem to actually create this content. So in my eyes, this means that in the future, the generation of complete like fake videos, as we're seeing on social media, of these like weird animals doing things that are kind of realistic but out of the question, is going to become democratized. So that's definitely something in the future.
Yeah, and just to add to this, I also read somewhere that OpenAI was spending $15 million every single day on Sora. So if when you talk about ROI, 15 million times 365, we're talking $5.5 billion a year to support a social media app that's not making any money. I mean, maybe their thought was ads, right? But yeah, it just really didn't make sense for them, it seems like.
Yeah, it's a bit what we said in one of the previous episodes of like OpenAI choosing their battles, and they've always been trying to be everywhere and being the everything app. And since the beginning, we were thinking, okay, ChatGPT, and then you get the option to build your own agents, and then you think, okay, they're going to evolve into an agent marketplace, and all of these things never really takes off, never really gets adopted. Then they have their hands on all other things, creating the best models, want to be also in front of coding, Sora, video generation. And yeah, if you think about it, video generation like needs image generation, and video is multiple frames of images, needs a lot of compute to create compared to coding, I think. So, and coding is where the value is. Videos is just to share in social media. And like Lucas says, people expect it to be free because creating content has always been free. So yeah, maybe it's OpenAI choosing their battles finally. And maybe the PR thing that you said indeed might be that they are actually choosing their battles wisely in terms of business strategy and how to create or continue having this high valuation that they are going after anyway.
Yeah. Just like quick trivia for you guys. I forget which leader, whether it's Anthropic or OpenAI, but one of them was asked which product is the most expensive or requires the most compute out of like all of the known ones. That what do you guys think it is? Is it this that we're talking about or something else? If you had to guess, what would it be?
Which
Compute
product?
what?
You mean
Product from
what AI use case? Or
Yeah, I would say like imagine ChatGPT, their platform, all of the different capabilities, which one by far requires the most compute and is the most expensive for them to run?
For sure, the video. I think it's for sure the video the generation.
I thought it was that. It's not. It's actually deep research. Deep research is like by far the most expensive for them to run.
really?
But is that because of like volume of requests or per request basis?
Yeah, no, I think it's just volume of requests, right? It's the amount of like if you think about it, you hit that enter button and it is running through all these searches, going through the internet. It comes back 15 minutes later. Like I'm pretty sure that the moderator even asked him video and he said no. It's like, it's deep research.
This is where I think Perplexity have an edge, because I was hearing about how their CEO explained how their product works. And for example, when you do research with Perplexity, it's not just doing AI calls for everything, and they actually have their own search engine that does some of the work for it. So this is where I got a bit more bullish lately on Perplexity after I heard their CEO speak, because they are, yes, a wrapper around all of the other LLMs, but they're able to take advantage of the most cost-effective one and the best one for the right use case. So yeah, I'm not so bullish on having OpenAI keep going down this route of building their own kind of master application. And I really do think that if they want to succeed, they should just focus on being the technology provider to have the best codex or the best reasoning. Yeah, the focus I think is going to be key for these AI companies to succeed.
It's interesting that you mentioned this with the deep research, because I have a Gemini subscription, for example, and I've seen other people post about this too, where people even on a $200 plan or $100 Gemini plan, and then at a certain point, sometimes you want to do deep research or you want to do a good request, and suddenly they say like, "Oh, server overloaded. We come back later." I'm like, am I paying for a
Yeah.
subscription for this? Come on,
Yeah.
I'm on a not the most expensive plan, but even the people on the highest tiers, they like sometimes just don't return. So I can see that like Google sometimes is blocking or just overloaded because of this.
Yeah, and I was actually listening to a podcast with Dylan Patel last week, and he was saying that I guess Google is an interesting one because they're the biggest of all these AI companies in the sense that, like, yeah, they were a tech company, they're FANG. And so there's so many different components of Google, right? And so Google Cloud, they have the TPU, which is their own GPU that they build, they manufacture. I think they maybe work with ASML for that. There was a miscommunication between the Google Cloud team and the Google AI team last year. And around Q3 of last year, I think Google Cloud sold off, I want to say $5 or $10 billion worth of compute to Anthropic. And then Gemini 3 came out and their usage just skyrocketed. That was really when Gemini kind of started picking up, was when Gemini 3 came out. All of a sudden, Google AI is like, what the fuck did you guys do? We need this compute. Like, you gave this to our competitor. And so, now there's a race to like go out and try to like secure more compute. So I think what you're seeing there, Rick, is like Google, out of all of these AIs, from what I'm kind of sensing and gathering, is like the most constrained. Even though their models are not maybe the best, they're so intertwined into the Google workspace that everyone's using them all the time.
It's so interesting to see the different layers of what it takes to build a successful AI company as well. It's not just building the best models. It's not just onboarding all the users. It's also having a good management and a good strategy of all the compute and how you're going to offer it. Like, I didn't know about this, that Google sold off that to Anthropic, for example. Very interesting.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy that the limiting factor for AI companies today is compute. Elon Musk this week announced that his TerraFab is going to have enough capacity that will exceed that of TSMC by 50 times. So he plans to increase the global capacity of chip production by over 50 times. That just goes to show how big and forward thinking like he actually is in the way he approaches his projects.
So Elon posted TerraFab was the final missing piece of the puzzle. So what are we looking at here?
Basically, like this week, Elon launched the TerraFab, which was his, I think, 2030 launch of building out this GPUs, because he basically realized right now the constraint is not actually on chips, right? That is not what's holding us back from being able to create more AI capacity. It's energy. But by 2030, a lot of people suspect that the chips are actually going to be the main constraint there. And so that's where Elon is building out this TerraFab. So to give size relativity perspective here, on the left-hand side, that little thing that's a mile long is the current Tesla Gigafactory, which is, I think, known to be one of, if not the biggest structure on Earth, right? The single biggest building on Earth. The TerraFab is 100 million square feet. It looks like it's about 10 to maybe 15 times the size of the Gigafactory. And that's what Elon is building with this TerraFab. It's also kind of interesting. I heard this in a podcast, and it's Elon is low-key amazing at marketing and branding. He started with the megas, right? The megawatts, the first real big one was the Gigafactory. But you know what? Like, Giga's not big enough for this. So now he's building it. It's a TerraFab, and it's basically proportionate to the size of whatever he's building. In this case, I think it's basically the amount of energy related. That's where the Terra comes from. But yeah, like it's a joint partnership between Tesla, xAI, and SpaceX. And it seems like it's kind of laying down the groundwork for Tesla and SpaceX, all of Elon's companies basically merging together.
If you think about in terms of value, TSMC is worth like what, 2 trillion, something like this. Maybe we should check it. And this is going to have 50 times the capacity of this TSMC today. So what's that going to be worth?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it goes, are they really worth that much? I mean, I'm looking on, it says 47 trillion, but I'm assuming that's in like yuan or something.
1.69 trillion USD is the value of TSMC.
Okay. Yeah.
Of what?
Of TSMC.
Oh.
And this is supposed to have 50 times the production capacity of TSMC.
Yeah, if you think about it, like even comparing the Gigafactory to the Pentagon, the Gigafactory is like 1.5 times bigger than the Pentagon. And if you then think about this, so the small 1 mile thing that we see on this image is the Gigafactory. The Pentagon is like 2/3 size of that.
Yeah, I mean, I used to work in Amazon fulfillment centers, right? And our warehouses, which were ginormous, they were 1 million square feet. That's 100 million square feet. right? So it was 100 of these Amazon huge warehouses that are basically fulfilling packages for an entire city or part of a city. He's building 100 of them together. Yeah.
Crazy.
And I think that's happening in Austin too. This is also just going back to this onshoring like narrative that's definitely happening, right? Where every country is saying, I mean, many countries, the US in particular, are saying like, we need to have these critical resources within our country.
But they do have these incentives as well, I think, right? If all those companies that invest in AI now, they get like tax benefits, especially in the US, for like building these types of things. So probably Elon even gets a good deal and cheap capital to build this. So next up, we have ElevenLabs getting disrupted by open source models, Mistral more specific. Ben, you shared this with us. You're surprised that ElevenLabs gets disrupted. Can you explain us how this is going to happen?
Yeah. So I mean, for those that don't know, right, there's a lot of LLMs out there. There's OpenAI, ChatGPT, Anthropic, Claude. But when it comes to voice AI, there's only really been one main, like high quality voice agent model. And that was basically run by ElevenLabs. They had raised over $1 billion on this like kind of single thesis that high quality AI voice is super hard to produce. Well, this week, on Thursday, Mistral, which is a European open sourced company, they put out a text to speech model that basically performs as well as ElevenLabs does. And then that open source model, I think it can like run on a 3 gigabytes of RAM. So it's like super local, like you can run it on your own computer essentially. Google also then the next day shipped Gemini 3.1 Flash Live, they're calling it. And basically what that is, it's like native voice merged with their Gemini 3.1 model. So to give you perspective for a few of my different products, like I use ElevenLabs to power. So when you run a mock sales call through Sales Echo, one of my products, I'm paying ElevenLabs about 8 cents per minute for running those calls. It's very expensive. It can like really add up. And it honestly limits the amount of usage that I can like provide to my customers because it is pretty expensive. Well, Gemini, this live product that they came out with, is now 2 cents a minute. So it basically is 75% cheaper than what ElevenLabs has been offering for the last few years. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I saw NVIDIA also maybe came out with something open sourced around voice agents last month. It feels like the door is kind of widening open and there's going to be some more competitors. But this really does unlock a lot of use cases, right? Because I remember when the ChatGPT voice agent initially came out, everyone was using it. It was super powerful and it kind of died down. Like it hasn't really been as useful, I think, as maybe people initially had. But with all these different kind of companies coming out with their own versions, they're getting cheaper, they're getting lighter weight, like you can run them locally. Yeah, it should definitely like help with a lot of industries, whether it's kind of sales or customer support or kind of all these industries where you just need someone to be like speaking, like you can now implant just like a voice agent for pretty cheaply.
Well, there's a clear pattern here, right? It's a startup that proves a use case, which is ElevenLabs, and then you have the bigger players, like for example, a Google or Mistral now, which is an open source player, that then basically disrupt that idea or that thesis that has been built for a while, and then the category gets commoditized, we can call it that way, and then the startup either moves, pivots, stays ahead, or dies. This is something we've been repeatedly saying as well. Like if you're building an easy AI tool, then Google might be putting you out of business in the next few weeks, months, whatever. And if you look at a $1.1 billion valuation ElevenLabs, that can get disrupted by an open source model. It's not disrupted yet, okay? It's still probably the most used voice agent, but it's getting competition. It's not a monopoly anymore. So yeah, very interesting. I'm excited to start using it. I did like the product that ElevenLabs built, like so many nice features. It's very user friendly as well.
Yeah.
So I don't think they're going anywhere. But
No,
it's
they're
great to
not.
have
But
competition.
but I will say I spent like a few hours yesterday trying to move over from ElevenLabs to the Google Gemini Live product, and it's faster. It's arguably a better product. It just doesn't have to your point, Rick, it doesn't have as many like bells and whistles. You don't have as many voices that you can like choose from. So there are certain like intonation things that I think it's missing. The latency of this one, the Gemini Live, was better than ElevenLabs. That's what I noticed, at least.
And then later it's going to come down as well on syncing that to video generation, I guess, because voice is one thing, but then content, a lot of content is video plus audio. And then you have an ElevenLabs, which is focused on audio, but then you have Google, which has VO3 and Nano Banana. So they have everything in the stack to combine it all and offer a product where anyone can go from a text to a video then, and not just a text to... Luca, you have something to say.
Have you tried the Grok actually? Because Grok has a quite a decent. You can put in a prompt; it will generate a video with voice on it too. And I played around with it; it was actually quite good. So yeah, for sure, I will see more of that from other companies. But the Grok one I tried was really good at that, and it made a really fun clip for me.
I've
I was
seen
just
some
happy
of
to
those
see.
examples.
Yeah, I was just happy to see a bit of a European AI company finally making some waves.
I didn't know that was possible.
Mistral's been around for a while. They just
Yeah.
they really haven't I don't know, come out with that much.
Next up, we have an open source memory layer that I came across this on Twitter, and I found it interesting because a tweet claimed that this tool could save you 90% of token spent, which means I would max out my Claude subscription much, much less, and I could get much more work done. I found this interesting because open source things can just get plugged into AI models these days, and you can improve your workflows and your way of working with AI so much if you just find the right GitHub repos or Claude skills, or you know how to plug this into your AIs. And yeah, this is just a testament to go and search for these things. Or if you see something on Twitter about someone writing about something, how they plug in or get more efficient with AI, just go and try that shit, because there's so many ways that you can just improve everything you do with AI. And this is one of those. Memory is going to become even a bigger thing with all the content, but everyone creates more content every day. And if you can keep track of more content and nodes and client stuff, then your AI is going to need memory. And as in the cloud services, memory can become a big spend. So if you're optimizing your memory for your AI, then you're probably going to save on bills. Guys, are you guys optimizing? Are you testing out open source stuff? Or are you just... I know Ben is throwing tokens, so he doesn't really care about that.
Yeah, I don't know. I try not to spend so much time building out every last testing out every feature. You really want to kind of stick to what works as well. Granted, I was just saying that I was thinking about moving over to Gemini, but unless it's really expensive and I just think there's a better alternative, I try to stick to it. But there's a cost angle. There's also the context window angle, right? Where if they can help make it so that Claude can expand its context further by having better memory within that million tokens or whatever it is, that would be exciting for me. How about you, Luca?
It feels like the more time passes, the better the memory of of everything we're using. So, yeah, it just
Yeah.
I feel like the latest models, I haven't really been running into any memory issues or giving it a document that it can't kind of handle, and sometimes I'm feeding them documents that are like 90, 100 pages. I do have some of these where I then break down the tasks that when I have I have documents that are 100 plus pages. But for those cases, what my system does is it analyzes, let's say, 25 pages at a time, and then summarizes and condenses them into one. But as the token context continues to increase, that's going to become less and less needed, and we can just trust the LLMs more to be able to process large amounts of complicated data, such as laws and regulations.
Google introducing TurboQuant, our new compression algorithm that reduces LLM key value cache memory by at least 6x and delivers up to 8x speed up, all with zero accuracy loss, redefining AI efficiency. And I've been seeing some tweets about this. You can now use this, and you will not need a Claude Max $200 plan anymore, because this optimizes your memory and your Claude Pro, your Claude Code, and other things. I'm like, wow, okay, so how am I going to use this? Where in the stack does this work? And is it really going to be that efficient?
Sorry, the cache is one of the main memory bottlenecks in running LLMs. Every time a model processes a conversation, it stores keys and values from the attention layers, so it doesn't have to recompute them. But this cache grows with every token and eats GPU memory fast. TurboQuant compresses that cache by 6 times with 0 accuracy loss and delivers up to 8 times inference speed up. So it's compressing it with no data loss. That's I guess that's the key point. Whilst the method that I described relies on summarizing, let's say 25 pages at a time, but in that summary, you are potentially losing key parts of that information. So this allows you to process larger amounts of data without losing the accuracy.
Do you think this is going to be something that all the AI, like this is now coming from Google Research, meaning this is Google's research arm, and it's like a breakthrough research thing, maybe that all other AI providers will also implement this research piece? Basically, like Anthropic came up with the MCP protocol, and then everyone now can use MCP. You think this Google Research puts this out there in the world, and everyone can now adopt it?
Yes, possibly. I'm not sure like how much of the tech is kind of like open source or you can just copy it. But I'm sure that other companies, if they put in the effort, would be able to become more efficient too. What this does tell me though is that Google is not just focusing on the model quality, but also focusing on model efficiency. And if you're running a business that you want to be profitable, you obviously want it to be more efficient. So this does position Google in a good place because they already have their own in-house GPUs, TPUs that they produce. They have good quality models, and now they're also being able to bring down the cost of running those said models. So that's very good sign for Google to position themselves to actually turn a profit with their technology. And if the other companies do improve what they have very good high quality models, but their burn rate is too high, that could be an issue for those companies in the future.
And it all comes back to what we discussed earlier as well with Google and the compute, right? Where you got to be optimizing where you can to keep running what you want to offer. Yeah, great. Interesting. This comes from Google Research. We stay in the research side, and we already had a little science corner in the beginning of the episode, but Luca is going to do another science corner for us because last week Luca talked about someone who cured his dog with cancer, but now actually a human has been cured with cancer. Luca, can you tell us a bit more about what happened here and why this is significant, and maybe also the link to network states?
All right. So yeah, last week we discussed the dog, right? And the dog owner who looked at the genome and created a cure for that dog's cancer. Well, this week news came out of the GitLab founder who analyzed his own genome, created his own mRNA vaccines to cure his his bone cancer. It basically turned himself into his own science experiment. And I mean, this is something that is quite incredible because the doctors told him there was no other solutions, no other treatments. And he used existing tests to create 25 terabytes of his own health data that is now publicly accessible. And he built his own cure for his own specific kind of cancer. But this guy is an entrepreneur. So what did he go and do? He's launched a company commercializing his own cure. And that's insane when you think about it. Like you get sick, cure your own disease, and build a company around it. I did add Prospera as an interesting kind of feature for this story because most of this kind of stuff that we're talking about is in a legal gray area. So most countries don't really have a regulatory framework that will allow you to do this, and you could end up in some hot water. But there is a place in Honduras that's called Prospera, and they have their own legal framework that already allows companies to do gene therapy that would take years if you had to do this in the US and go through the FDA to get some kind of approval. So what does this mean? Does this mean that in the coming years, people who get sick are going to be given an opportunity rather than just something that's bad? I mean, nobody wants to get cancer, right? But I mean, if you get cancer and you cure it in the next 1 or 2 years, you can potentially become a billionaire from it. So yeah, that's kind of interesting to think about that.
Can AI also solve problems with your anus?
What problems do you have with your anus?
Okay, J. Cal. Luca, you really fell for it.
Doesn't sound like I have something stuck up my ass or something.
So that means that people that have cancer will be traveling to network states, just like bald people travel to Turkey?
If you wanted to go somewhere where you can actually run clinical trials and do this kind of testing fast, which, as we know, as a startup, speed is critical. You would go to some place like Prospera, yeah.
Well, Science Corner.
Science Corner, facts.
I'm assuming Ben doesn't have anything to add here, so
Am I really
Yeah.
like fucking Friedberg of this group? That's not good.
You're becoming that, it seems like.
That's so not good, man. He's such a nerd. Fuck.
Oh, the Anthropic mythos is interesting.
What's the Anthropic Mythos thing? Tell us. It's a leak.
So Fortune, a couple days ago, they were looking through all of Anthropic's documents. I guess Anthropic, for whatever reason, all of their files are defaulted to being public, and then they need to decide to make them private. And Fortune was going through the documents, and then they saw, if you zoom in there, Rick, you'll see, right, we're familiar with Claude, Haiku, Sonnet, Opus, but there's actually a fourth layer to this pyramid at the top, and that one is called Claude Mythos. And so they haven't released this model yet, but there is some speculation that Claude maybe has this top level, like most powerful model, but there are Claude, even Anthropic, cited in their documents that there's significant cybersecurity risks to being releasing this this model. So people don't really know kind of what exactly it is. It's in early access testing, but it's pretty crazy to think that perhaps a lot of these providers maybe even have another like model that is so powerful that they're concerned about even starting to release it now.
I saw just
Whoa.
last month, like a lot of cybersecurity companies, their stock price is tanking. And that's because AI is so much better at doing the security audits. So maybe
Yeah.
these new models are so kind of good that they can basically hack a lot of governments or private companies or individuals, and that's maybe what they're worried about. And maybe their tactic, or what these companies are doing, is approaching these sensitive organizations before they release the models to see if there are some kind of vulnerabilities that are maybe or at least that's an idealistic way of thinking about it.
Oh, do you know why it's called like Haiku, Sonnet, and Opus?
No, do you?
They're different types of like poetry formats, except they're different like sizes. Haiku is a short 3-line poem, whereas sonnet is 14 lines. And then an opus, I don't even know if opus has like a specific amount of lines, but it's like a longer. So, the bigger the model, the bigger the document size, essentially.
And then suddenly you have an animal. Like you go from
And then
4
you
lines
have
to an animal.
mythos. Exactly. Yeah.
So eventually we'll get Claude Epic, I guess.
Claude Epic or
Claude
Claude Terra.
Epic. Yeah.
Terra Claude.
Terra Claude.
When Elon buys Anthropic. Well,
Yeah.
we are at the end of our docket. Do we want to do any predictions this week?
I predict that undersea cables like those in the Strait of Hormuz are going to be a very sensitive topic in the coming weeks, months, and not years. And all of this AI compute is passing through them. Think about it. If the whole world is running on AI and you can shut down an entire economy by snipping some cables, what would your enemies do?
Ben, you got anything? Oh, you already shared a prediction earlier.
I'm in a little bit of a fight with Claude. You guys know I use a lot of Claude, and this week it's been kind of acting a little bit stupider, right? So I don't know if like the context limits are like lower, or it's slower, it's stupider. It just hasn't felt as fast this week as it has for the last few months. So I don't know if Anthropic is throttling stuff, but I wouldn't be surprised if, I think Anthropic is at an all-time high, but I don't think they're just going to keep going from here. Something is going to break because, yeah, I'm at least seeing it myself, where this week I'm like, why did you do that? So that's my prediction.
Yeah,
I think OpenAI is going to make a comeback.
Okay. Yeah, you've mentioned multiple times this week that Claude is more stupid this week.
Yeah.
And I've noticed it myself a little, but then like somehow Nick, your agent, is indeed like has just not been performing as well as he did before.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
I know.
Okay. Good. My prediction is that we will hit 200 followers on Instagram this week. So I think we are on track. So go like, subscribe, and comment on all our social channels. Go to godmodepod.com to find all the channels. Also subscribe on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and YouTube. Support us. We're growing fast. We're pushing out clips, content segments on YouTube. And Luca is looking shiny and beautiful like always. Ben from somewhere in Africa and me from the mountains in Bulgaria. This was the God Mode Pod, episode 6, holiday edition. Next week, we are back with more in-depth stories and more knowledge to be shared, because Ben was preparing to share with us how he set up his OpenClaw. If OpenClaw is still a thing next week and Claude didn't disrupt it, then we'll talk about that. And otherwise, we talk about more Claude news. See you guys next week. Bye, bye, bye.
Bye-bye.
Los amigos.
Coding an app is the new starting a podcast. We are 3 dudes. We just started a podcast.
It's incredibly reckless in this world to not learn AI.
Everything is code. I recently realized everything is code. Luca, what are you predicting?
Underwater drones run by PicoClaw.
Okay. Wow, bombshell. Using AI to write your prompt, bro. Come on. I am the greatest moderator in the world, and we see you guys next week. Love you, besties.